Hello and welcome to this week's College Planning Tip of the Week. I'm Nancy Steenson with Steenson College Coaching, and with me today, as always, is Jack Wang. So, Jack, we've been talking lately about creative ways to pay for college. I'm hoping you might have another strategy that you can share with us today.
Yeah, Nancy. Today I want to just talk about two very different things. They're kind of in their own buckets, if you will. One is a particular provision in the FAFSA regulations called the Simplified Needs Test. And again, actually, before I get into this, as always, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not advice, right? Consult your own financial or tax advisor. And of course, some of the things I talked to happened several years ago, so the levels or the details have changed. So again, please consult your own specialist on this. But the simplified needs test. So there's a provision in the FAFSA code that says if you're below a certain income and meet certain other conditions, none of your assets count. So years and years ago, I had this high-level executive who wanted to retire. And if you look at their annual income, it's going to be way too high to take advantage of this provision. They were not going to get aid, financial aid at any college. But the person wanted to retire, was actively talking about this. And this was early on in the year. And they actually had a lot of money in the bank, a lot of money in investments and a vacation home and so on and so forth, all those things that would have counted for financial aid. So the one crazy strategy was, well, if you retire right away, right? This was again at the beginning of the year. He hadn't quite earned enough to hit the income limit for this. I said, if you retire right away, and you take the rest of the year off, your income would stay below that limit, among other conditions, and all of those other assets would completely disappear. So on paper, he would look poor and actually qualify for a lot of aid. Now, this is a FAFSA only provision, so then his son would have had to apply to FAFSA only schools because the profile form looks at it differently. They don't have this kind of provision. And this was a great way to get a lot of aid, even though he owned a ton of money and would otherwise be a high income earner. Now, for a full disclosure, he decided not to do that because as much as he actually liked the idea, he didn't want to retire quite that soon, but the idea would have worked. So it's a very one-off thing. It's very unique circumstances, but that does exist. The other thing I just want to share with you is that colleges have payment plans. If you want to pay some portion of the bill using a payment plan, you can do that, but colleges tend to dictate how many months those payment plans can run, right? It certainly has to finish by an academic year. So quite often it's like a 6 payment, 8 payment, sometimes you see 10 payment. But I had a client years ago who wanted to create their own payment plan because they wanted the flexibility in case something came up, their roof, need to be replaced, or they had a major car repair or something. So completely different than simplified needs test, but this is just a creative way of using a plus loan. And what this client did, because he wanted to create his own payment plan, is he decided to use the plus loan to pay for college, right, for the year. But remember, a plus loan does not require payments while your student is in school. So what he did was he used the plus loan, and instead of I think it was a 6 payment plan that the school offered, he created his own 12 payment plan. He just had it paid off. But he was able to make payments whenever he could, which was fine, at a much lower number because it was 12 payments instead of 6. Plus, he had the flexibility of, in case something happened, he didn't have to pay a given month, whereas that payment plan would have looked for money that month. So each year he created his own 12-month payment plan by using the plus loans. Now, of course, he paid the loan fee. There is a loan fee to get a plus loan. And during the course of the year, he did pay some loan interest. That is true. So it did cost him a little bit. But I thought it was a pretty creative use of a plus loan to create his own plan. And again, it goes to show that just because you take on the debt doesn't mean you have to keep the debt long term. And so I just want to share these two as just very sort of one-off ways to pay for college. Again, both of these are kind of unique circumstances, but it can be very creative for the right circumstances.
Thank you, Jack. Those are some great creative ideas, and keep them coming. Tune in next week, folks, and maybe we'll get another one. And have a wonderful week.